Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to see you today. I'm here today with Joti Balani, and she's a founder and managing director of freshriver.ai and is an award-winning creative architect, designing and delivering complex enterprise, human, and systemic transformations. Now, Joti and I got to know each other through G100, which is a program where we're both the representatives for our countries in the robotics and automation arms. We'll kind of come on to this talking, but first of all, I wanted to let Joti, maybe you want to introduce yourself in a bit more detail.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on, Sarah. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm founder and managing director of freshriver.ai. Started the company in this space about 5 years ago. I am not a career consultant. I actually grew up in the enterprise space for 22 years, all in the telecoms, wireless, wireline, building products as a software engineer, and then also doing marketing for a couple of years. So I've had, multiple pivots and hats that I've worn. And then I did the ultimate pivot of jumping out of corporate and starting my own gig. It's been quite an adventure to this point. So if you ask me who I really am, I call myself a human first capitalist and activist. And that is how I see the world.
And I'm sure we're going to get onto that in a bit more detail because we've just been having a chat offline for everybody else. And we've already been going, we need to touch on that. Oh, that should be an interesting topic to discuss. So we've actually got a lot of things that we're obviously fairly aligned on. And yet I think it's important to kind of give people a little bit of background on you, first of all, to kind of help them understand what is it that's important to you? Why do you do what you do?
So, as I was ending my corporate career, the last few years became pretty rough. Having ascended to senior leadership executive positions, which is ultimately everybody's dream and goal, I realized that there was really no oxygen in the room to do the next, innovative things and solve real problems. Capitalism is sort of like that. It's what's the next, quarter is going to bring. What are you going to deliver? Revenue, bottom line. I wanted to go solve some real problems. And so I dug really, really deep to say, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I can bring to the table? And look at the world as actually solving problems. Because ultimately everybody thinks about, building their legacy. And I knew that I didn't want to go back to corporate. So I knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know what I wanted. But the universe decided, and I'm a big believer, when you put a thought out there and you give, you pay forward, amazing things happen. So what led me, the drive was, what problem do I want to solve? I think AI is coming. AI was born in the 1950s and it's gone through its ups and downs. And I think we're in an era where it's finally taking hold. So 5 years ago, I was very early and I started doing independent consulting projects in the space of conversational AI. And the early adopters, Fortune 100 companies, brought me in as a consultant, said, hey, can you help us build products using this technology? And so that is where I started to realize how real this tech is. At that time, it was good, but it wasn't as good as we've gotten right now. And you can see that with generative AI. So starting with a team of one, as the only consultant in the company, we do strategy and delivery of conversational AI, AI-enabled workflow automation, and data transformation with these foundational models. And this is all for Fortune 500 companies, because they're the ones that will have the biggest impact, I believe, when they deploy AI. So the problems that we want to help them solve are business outcomes, but it's leveraging the technology as a tool, not as a hammer looking for a nail, in an ethical, emotionally, and economically intelligent way. Right? So that's how I think, that's how I am as a person, that's how my team, now we've grown, the company's growing very, very quickly, but we've stayed very true to that core. Some of our clients are calling us the next evolution of McKinsey that delivers. I said, okay, whatever that means, if you need a reference point. We're not a traditional IT consulting company. I was a client to a lot of these consulting companies, and I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't want this to become a body shopping. I don't want humans to just be thrown into, I call it digital slavery, frankly. I got a lot of opinions, Sarah. But that's the world I'm hoping to build. I look at myself and my team as the builders of the exponential age, which has arrived, right? The speed at which everything is moving, I believe is going to need humans that are ethical, emotional, and economically intelligent in order to build AI and robotics and automation. Because in the wrong hands, I think we're going to be in a worse state than we are right now as a society, business, economy. So we need more people and we need humans represented in this field.
So just one second, why you kind of touched on a couple of things here, which I want to kind of pull out. The first one is obviously the world that you're trying to build. So you were talking about that's the world we want to build. But why is that important to you?
So I have children. I see the young folks. I feel that our generation has a responsibility of building a better world that we leave behind for the previous generation, right? If we only think that, oh, we're consumers, which the West has got a big problem with consumerism, you just consume and you leave behind a worse place for your children. It's really that's what drives me. When I look at this and I go, okay, I was fortunate enough to go through what I did, the opportunities that I had, or the struggles that I had, right? Equally. It's not been easy. Look at me. I'm a brown female immigrant living in the United States of America, right? I love the US, but I'm a global citizen. And I do believe we have this responsibility to not only enjoy the capitalistic ways of living, but to do the right things, right? Leave the world in a better place than we found it. So my personal life philosophy is that we're all born into the earth with superpowers given to us, and we have a lifetime to discover those superpowers, solve the problems, and leave the world in a better place than we find it. That's how I live. That's how I look at the world. And the people that are being sent to me, you and I have that, that we've had these conversations, is people like us that will deliver on this path, right? Versus just the pure capitalists that are, it's all about the money, it's all about power. Yes, am I a capitalist? 100%. But I'm a human first capitalist and activist. And that makes a difference, right? You have to think about all three things. And I believe it's possible to do.
Joti and I, before we came on, we're talking about this because I've set my business up as a B Corp. The conscious capitalism framework is really resonant with me. And we were talking about actually just this point of responsibility and the fact that tech is such an enabler to make the world a better place. And yet we need that responsibility from us as leaders in how we actually apply the technology and also how we treat people in the development of technology to be able to enable that. And so much of what you're saying right now is obviously resonant with me, global citizen, same. There's so much here which is about, it's not just about responsibility. And for me, it's also that next level that you were saying is, what's the future for our children? What are we actually going to create? What are we trying to create for that future? And what's, like you're saying, what's our responsibility to do that? And I guess the question I've got is, what is important to you as a leader in tech right now, in this kind of era where everything's like almost speeding up? We've got the potential to really make change, to create a better, to redesign. We're redesigning every single day. So what's important to you as a leader in tech at this point?
The number one is that we need humanity represented in the roles in this new exponential age era. So I'll give you some statistics. So the World Economic Forum came out with their jobs labor report in 2020, and they just refreshed it last year. By 2020, now they're saying 2026, there will be 97 million new jobs created where humans, machines, and algorithms will collaborate, and 85 million existing jobs will be eliminated. And we're already beginning to see it. If you look at all the layoffs that have started occurring, even in the big tech companies, right? 10,000, 11,000. IBM recently came out with their 7,000 layoff and said those jobs are not coming back because we have automated them. It's clear, and this is all happening at very, very high speed. From a historical perspective, by the way, I study anthropology very, very closely. I've been following Yuval Harari for some time. His book Sapiens, by the way, will give you that historic perspective. So if you think about the last 25, 30 years, where we've used computing, we developed the internet. The web took 25 years to evolve. Mobile took 15 years. Cloud took 10 years. We are now in a 5-year era mark beginning with AI. And all the signs are right there. People that are getting laid off, the jobs that are getting automated, these technologies, generative AI that have come in, right? So, you said technology leader. I don't look at myself as a technology leader only. I'm looking at myself as a business leader, but also a citizen of the world that says, look, if we're going to deploy these technologies, we got to do it thoughtfully. It will happen. You cannot go say, I'm going to protect the existing jobs that exist. I'm the first one to say, if we can do things better, faster, cheaper, we are going to go do it. But let's do it with human first and bring people along with us.
So as a citizen of the world, then, what does success mean to you?
So my vision is to be able to see human representation in these 97 million jobs. And if you think about it, these are all greenfield jobs. They've literally been invented over the last few years. So I'll give you examples: conversation designers, prompt engineers, for heaven's sake, that's coming out, right? People don't even have job descriptions for them. So I look at that and I go, this is a remarkable once in a generation opportunity to get women in first. Because typically what's happened, if you think about the web, mobile, all the trajectories of technologies and innovations that have evolved, we've had men. And by the way, my best mentors are men. My dad was my first mentor. I've had bosses that were my mentors, right? So this is not where for women to win, men have to lose. What I want people to understand is if we don't have human representation, here's what's going to happen. And now there's a capitalistic reason why we need that human representation. Okay. If you think about AI, human to machine interaction in that term, right? So we came from a world of web and mobile where humans had to go understand how to use technology, right? We have our phones, we've got keyboards, we learned how to speak to these machines. We are now in this third evolution of human to machine interaction where the machines understand us. So think about that. We speak and the machines understand. So when you go type something in ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude or any one of these, they are responding to you. They understand what we say. That's a massive game changer. Okay. Not only from a capitalistic standpoint on the fact that it can do things better, cheaper, faster, but the fact is, and this example gets everybody, how do we expect a young white male sitting in Silicon Valley to design a AI assistant agent for menopause for an African American woman? I'm just going to pause here. When I ask that question, people get it right away. They're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. What kind of training are you going to train this model in if you have no clue what it's like being a woman and then going through menopause and being someone from a different ethnic background? It's like, do you understand what I'm saying? If I want to solve a problem for a demographic, I want to sell them better products, more makeup or retail or banking services, right? I got to speak in the language of the demographic. And I'm not just talking about English. Yes, there's a lot of language, linguistic wise, but the language is how I speak to you culturally. How do I understand what you're going? So to me, this is like, wow, this is amazing. You are going to need women. You're going to need women across the world. You're going to need women who speak different languages, different culture, because only they know what it's like to be in the shoes of the people that they are trying to speak to, right? So that's where I'm saying you don't have a choice. I'm telling Fortune 500 leaders, because my team internally, we are largely women, but we have men as well, because I'm like, look, I don't want this lopsided where we only have women in AI. I'm like, no, that wasn't the point. The point is, let's get women in, because traditionally women have been pulled back, right? Through the pandemic, we got more women that we were in regression. I think the McKinsey report that came out in 2017 was that it would take 100 years for women to gain parity, not get ahead, parity. Now I think it's 200 years because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I think the traditional ways have not worked. This is not for lack of trying with all the women groups that have been there, STEM. And by the way, this is the other big thing I want people to understand. We don't only need people with STEM degrees here.
We're saying we've got to get a lot more creative.
That's
And
correct.
actually, this is also an amazing enabler for bringing more diverse skill sets into
That's
tech.
correct. That's
Obviously,
correct.
it's a challenge as well in the same time, but I see it also.
Philosophers, linguists,
Yeah.
social scientists, artists. I've got entire reasons. I gave a presentation at a university a couple of months ago in Pennsylvania to middle schoolers and high schoolers about all the jobs that are coming. And I said, you're an artist. We need you. We need you to be at the table to design these systems because we got to think about what's the human perspective. Because the people, how do you expect machines to work correctly to understand humans if the humans that are training them don't understand the humans that it comes to? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very logical to me.
Yeah, I always think the examples you're giving are actually really good, because I always say it's all about the women and nothing about the women at the same time, because we're just the enabler, because we're the clear ones that are underrepresented currently. And yet what we need to do is enable for everybody. This isn't, like you say, about women taking from men. This is about, making the pie bigger, enabling more people, more diversity into this space, and be that in terms of skill sets, be that in terms of backgrounds and cultures. It's, we've got to diversify to be able to succeed in creating sustainable solutions that work for the target audiences. And also to kind of create a bit more equality across the world in terms of what they can actually achieve.
Yeah. And
Depending
there's a
on
why for that. Yep.
Yeah, totally.
I actually want to add one more thing just to demonstrate this point. Yeah. So when I started the company 5 years ago, I was not getting those projects because I was a woman. I was getting those projects because I'm very clear about this. All the contracts we're winning, we are a women certified entity. We are a for-profit S corporation, freshriver.ai. Okay. We are winning contracts with Fortune 500 companies direct. We are not winning them because we're a women-owned company. I don't even tell them that. I tell them that I said, oh, by the way, we're also women-owned. We are winning on the basis of the fact that we can solve problems with AI, with automation, with robotics. So if you focus on problem solving and you speak with credibility, it works. So a lot of women, I think the mindset is that I can't do something, or I don't have a STEM degree, or none of that is true. So that's the biggest hurdle is, the imposter syndrome. So I want everybody to know I'm a living example of the fact that when you have this power of knowledge and you step into these shoes, you step into these roles, people respect, people will listen. I have so many men asking me to train them in this, believe it or not. So I want everybody to shift their mindset into saying, I want to step into these new roles, these 97 million jobs. We need leaders, we need people, we need builders, we need thinkers, we need artists, but you have to come with the right mindset.
So there's something that comes out when you speak is your confidence, but also your ability to speak quite courageously, quite openly. And this is a lot of what I think has been missing almost in businesses in the last 10 to 15 years, actually having really honest conversations. When something's not working, something doesn't feel right, being able to actually voice it, put words behind it, be able to have that conversation. It's almost like we went too far being nice to people in the hope that that was what would create an inclusive environment. And actually all you've done is shut people up. So what does it take for you? What are your top tips on, building this courage, having this confidence in what you're talking about?
I think it begins with a lot of introspection for each person to think about what are your superpowers, acknowledging them. And you as a coach, you and folks that are in your space are so hugely important more than ever right now, because that introspection is very hard for human beings to do alone.
Especially high achievers, which a lot of people who do well in business are high achievers.
Exactly.
Because it's not a doing.
It's not, in order to do that soul searching, sometimes you need somebody to hold up a mirror. I was blessed enough to have a lot of people, but a lot of the inner work, you got to do yourself. You do need a guide that will look at you in a very balanced manner and be able to show you what your superpowers are. I can't tell you, I've been mentoring for the last 6 years. I mentor men, I mentor women, all ages, all ethnic, everything, right? First question I ask them is, what problem do you want to solve? Write a narrative of 100 to 150 words. I did this for myself. I had to do it because I had to say, what is it? What's my purpose? As human beings, you have to articulate that. But before it comes out on paper or to anybody else, you need to believe who you are. So that's the inner work. So the first question is, what problem do you want to solve? Because when you tackle a problem worth solving, nothing will stand in your way. Nothing. And it doesn't matter whether you think have the technology skills or whether you think you're an imposter, right? When you're laser focused, you learn everything and anything that you need. I have a belief because I currently have 30 women that have been either trained or in training, getting ready for the jobs that we have in our projects, right? As interns. What I've noticed is I started this program in 2020 where I took 10, mostly women, 5 grad school interns, computer science, computer engineering, data science, 5 women in non-STEM degrees. They were trying to pivot into this field. They came from journalism backgrounds, marketing backgrounds. For 6 months, I mentored them, gave them access to tech, asked them to build me a product as a team. And I said, this is the area that you can pick. For example, selling a luxury goods on a website, you need to create an AI agent. In 6 months, 10 people that had never heard of conversational AI actually built a proof of concept. The grad school interns told me they're not learning that in school. And the women who had no STEM degree said they'd never thought they could have a career in AI without a STEM degree, right? We sort of really, really kill a lot of myths. So that taught me that people who have integrity, the right kind of empathy, and a fire in the belly to learn and solve problems are the best qualified to wear the shoes of being in AI. That's it. So when you go back and do that work, make sure you've got those base qualifications about who you are, but don't let anything else hold you back. Write that narrative down. Write it down. Then you articulate it to somebody. Then they go, oh, is that what you want to do? I know somebody, or I need help.
Yeah, the door's open. Suddenly it appears.
Yeah. It's as simple as that.
So one of the things that you keep talking about is something that really resonates with me is like, we don't learn this stuff in school.
No.
We're not taught how to identify what our superpowers are, what's important to us, why what's the contribution that we can make. And what I'm hearing from you is actually it is those life decisions that we make and the difficult stuff like we were talking about before we came online that we've both been through that actually has awakened that in us to actually make this change. And I think that's important that people understand that this doesn't necessarily mean like everything's easy. Actually, the biggest things in our lives, like us both having been through burnout, and those are the things that have woken us up to actually saying, actually, we want to do something different. And it can take something like that to actually kind of almost, like you say, put the fire in your belly to get you to actually recognize what that is.
I want to bust a couple of myths, Sarah.
Go.
So the education system, I'm going to give you a couple of facts. The education system that we've all been through is 150 years old. Hasn't changed much. The universities around the world, the school systems, they're all teaching us at the time when we were still farmers and the kids had to come home and think about that, right? So the education system hasn't moved, and it's just been very difficult to shift. I have a couple of incredible professors that are on our advisory board for our training program. They actually agree with me. I have computer science professors, I have linguistic professors, and the reason why they joined our board is because they said this is a problem in the education system. So do not think that just because you've gone through the education system that you have whatever degree you've got, or even if you don't have a degree, doesn't mean that's what you're not good at or that's what you're good at. And the schools are not preparing students for this new age that has arrived. Those 97 million jobs, I have Ivy League students that intern with us and tell me they are not learning what we're teaching them here in our mentorship and apprenticeship program. That is a problem. So I need everybody to sort of Take out from your head whatever education system that you've gone through. Doesn't matter, wherever in the world, right? Point number one. Point number two, the recruiting system for jobs is completely broken. It's been broken for a very long time, right? And now people have added AI and automation in order to match, candidates to jobs. It's a joke, right? I've been through that. Before I finally decided I'm done, I was still trying to apply for jobs while I was burnt out. And it was like either I'm overqualified or it would go into a black hole. And like a year later, I would get a rejection letter. I'm like, wait, what? Ironically, some of those consulting companies are the same ones that we are winning contracts away from that would not respond. So I said, okay, so let's step back and take a look at the world we're in. Education's broken, recruiting's broken. We got 97 million new jobs coming and 85 million jobs that'll be eliminated. The bubble that I think you were mentioning, people are living in a bubble, right? Yeah. That bubble is getting burst very, very quickly. Highly qualified engineers are being laid off with incredible degrees. They're coming from Google, from Amazon, right? They're Stanford graduates. And they're telling me, why can we not find jobs? I said, because the job market and the needs have changed. We are having to retrain these incredible engineers in this new world of how to do development with generative AI, for example, right? So we have this gap. It's a good news and a bad news story. The good news is everybody's in the same boat.
I agree. It gives so many opportunities to people that couldn't have ever entered this space 10 years ago.
Correct. It's like the
and yet this continual learning and just recognizing we're always going to need to learn going forward is like what you say. I feel like we're not fundamentally equipping the next generation ready for the skills and, the social skills as much as anything that they're really going to need to live and work in a totally interconnected world.
So you know what's the number one skill everybody's going to need? You just said it. Learning how to learn. Yeah. They don't teach that in school.
Curiosity,
right? What problem do you want? Here's a problem. Go figure out how to solve it. So the way I've set up our training program is we do no micromanagement, no spoon feeding. We organize them into teams. We tell them, pick whatever role you want to play. Here are all the tools you need, all the tech, because we have access to a lot of tech, right? Here's the tools. Here's your team. Here's the problem you got to solve. Here's what success looks like. Go. Figure it out. We hear these things about, you got to fail. And I said, if you're not failing, you are not taking enough risk to solve the problem. We're not taught that in school. We're taught in school, you didn't fall the first time, you get a 0. Yeah. I went through that system of education. I've been through the Indian system of education, which is very, very rough and tough. Like if you didn't know how to memorize gigantic amounts of information and knew how to solve problems, you're a dud. You should probably just go, into, business. It's such a upside down world. But the good news is, more than ever, for one time in a generation, across all our generations, your age group, our kids' age group, older, it doesn't matter. We're all standing at the precipice of the same world that's there. Who's going to make it? Who wants in?
So we're kind of going to wrap up a little bit here. And obviously, I think you and I could talk about this all day. But one of the things I kind of, you're touching on here and we talked about earlier is this term of actually those of us who do have a voice have a responsibility right now to actually create this change, to try and sow the change into the future. But maybe you just want to kind of share with us your thoughts as to what that future could maybe look like. What are these opportunities that you see coming that could inspire other people to go and make that change?
So I always start with people saying, okay, look, think about the jobs you've had. I'm going to talk about the adults, right? Because the kids, we've got a different, I said, you can imagine being whatever you want to do. What problem do you want to solve, right? A lot of the working population, especially those that are getting impacted by automation, I tell them, you know what? Think about the time that you were in the drudges of your job. A lot of people hate their jobs, right? Even though some of them make tons of money. I've met so many people like that. There's some that love their job. I'm like, you found nirvana. but just make sure you stay relevant, right? I said, if you think about solving the right problem that excites you and it helps you make money and you are good at it, that's the formula. So think about what you would love doing. And don't look at your titles that you've had, whether you're an analyst or product manager or marketing. Shed the titles. You are not those titles. I had to go through that moment of when I was leaving corporate, like, I'm not a vice president of anything. I'm not a director of anything, right? It's almost like these skins that you shed. And then you go back to saying, you know, I imagine and envision myself doing this, solving this problem. Because if you solve the right problem that the world needs, money is a pleasant outcome. I'm going to say that again. If you find the right problem to solve that makes you happy and fulfilled, money will be the pleasant outcome. A lot of people chase the highest paying jobs. And I understand that the financial thing, believe me, out of everybody, I went back to zero. I was making amazing money in my corporate job before I left, right? I went down to zero, stripped off any titles, like zero, nothing. But guess what? You have a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Imagine it. You love art. You secretly would always go, doodle or paint. Figure out how that's needed in this world of generative AI. What problem do you want to solve with it? Not just that you want to go use a tool because everybody has access to the same tools. What sets you apart? That's going to require cognition. AI cannot replace this algorithm that humans have got in here.
No. And I guess, I just want to ask you, this final kind of question and obviously add on to it what it is that you still feel is left unsaid. But, if you could give your 10-year-old self now a bit of advice, what would it be?
This.
Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
I had a lot of fear. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough. That's because society, my parents gave us, I am youngest of 3 sisters, right? My dad said, you can do whatever you want to do, right? My mom was a leader in the community. So I watched them, but everybody else around me, like, oh, your math grades are not good enough. Or, I was terrible at math. And here I am in AI. Fear is the thing that we have to teach children. I would tell my 10-year-old self, don't listen to anybody else. Go do what you want. I did hold back a lot because it was either wasn't proper for the society needs, it wasn't proper because I was a girl, or wasn't. And that's what I tell. I don't have daughters. I have 2 sons. I tell them, of course, you can do anything you want to do. But I tell all the women, young women, older women, I'm like, you can do whatever. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't be afraid. There'll be so many people the universe will send you to support you. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. So I am going to ask the one that comes after this because it just so nicely fits to close us out. So what are the things that still today sometimes keep you awake at night? What are the things that you still occasionally get caught in that fear?
Can I grow the company fast enough where I can continue having my team happy, right? I tell my team, I want you to be happy. I want you to pay you the best for what you, but sometimes it's like, should I just go take the projects that I don't believe in because I want to drive the revenue? These are tough questions.
Yeah.
And I wake up every time saying, I got to hold on. I know. And all the people that believe in me, that are supporting me, advisors, they're like, no, hold the line. This is the right way. It's the right way to do it. So you worry, right? As a leader, you have a responsibility. That's what we began with, right? But you're also responsible for people who are with you. People who really have gone through the same burnout stuff, and they're with me. I have some incredible executive leaders that are part of our team. And they tell me, stay the line, hold the line. This is the right way to do it. You got to go keep doing what you're doing. So, But you have that thing at the pit of your stomach. I'm still living in a capitalistic world. I still got to make money. I still got to have margins. Other than that, I'm a big believer in the universe. When things are not meant to happen, they should not and will not happen. And I let go. I don't hold too tightly. And then people and opportunities and things come in, like how you and I met. Think about it. Like, how would we have ever met?
True. Yeah. I love that. And I love, I connect deeply with you on pretty much everything that you've said. And I think there's so much more that you and I could probably spend hours discussing. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your contribution today. I hope everyone else watching has really found something that Joti's explained, but also kind of given you her feelings behind actually why this is so important and actually what the opportunities are. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And yeah, I hope we talk again soon.
Thank you, Sarah, for the opportunity. Really, really love that conversation.
Take care of yourself.